Hey guys, it's Jenny. Welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. It is spook season! Yay! And no, I haven't started decorating yet. We're going to start doing that probably later today. So we're just going to have to, over here, hang out with Jack just for another day. I'm going to be doing a lot of pre-recording videos because my family is coming up from Indiana and they're going to be here a couple weeks. They're going to arrive the 3rd. They'll be here through the 16th. And there won't be a whole lot of videos for that second week they're here because I won't be doing videos. So I'm pre-recording for this whole next week. So let's just get started. Today I am doing my wrap-up for September. So let's just get started. The very first book, I'm going to go through this really quick, you guys, because I have a lot of stuff to do today. The first book I have here is Ruby Red. This is the first book in this Precious Stone trilogy. We're following Gwen, who gets the time travel gene. It was supposed to be her cousin, so Gwen ended up with it. She was very unprepared for the time traveling stuff. This one started out really slow for me. I didn't really understand the whole idea of the time travel and why. So I gave this one, I think it was a 3.5 star. It might have been 3 star, I don't remember for sure. But I did decide to continue with the trilogy because there was a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of this one. So I decided to continue on that one. The next one that we got here is Eleanor and Gray. This is by Brittany C. Cherry. I absolutely love this story. You have Eleanor and Gray who kind of have a little bit of a thing, you know, and they say they're going to, you know, keep going when, you know, they're off at school and what have you, but distance made them kind of lose touch. We fast forward further, I think it was 12 years, 11 years in time. I don't remember for sure what it was. And Eleanor meets up with Gray again. Not under great circumstances. And you guys, this was such an emotional roller coaster. It was a cry fest for me. Absolutely loved this story. The writing was very fluid. You're dealing with grief and loss. And if that's the kind of thing that you don't deal well with, then you may not want to read this. But I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Yes, another Sager book. In this one, we're following Jules, who gets this job apartment sitting in this well-known building. And things are a little weird. Things start happening. Jules starts figuring stuff out. You know, it's pretty much just the rich and famous that stay in this apartment building. And she's trying to figure out how she's getting paid for babysitting in one of the best apartments in the building. And it starts to get really strange. And that's pretty much the story. I don't want to give anything else away. I gave this one 4 stars. I love the characters and just the ominous feel to this apartment. You know, you knew something was going to happen or things were going on. And I loved that. So yeah, 4 stars for that one. The next one that I read was Beach Read, and this is by Emily Henry. This is just really big on BookTube, or it was really big on BookTube, and you got these 2 writers, and they're kind of going to swap their genres. So what he writes, she writes, and vice versa. You know, this was just okay for me, you guys. I think I rated this 3.5 stars. I did enjoy the characters. I just didn't feel like they were connected to each other in a way that I like to see. They seem kind of like they could be like, whatever, you know, either it works or it doesn't kind of thing. And like I said, I like the characters. I just really didn't connect with them all that well. I know this is not going to be a very popular opinion, but it was just okay for me. I feel like it was hyped up more than I felt it should have been. But anyway, yeah, that's Beach Read, Emily Henry. Sorry guys, I'm going through this really fast, but okay, the next book that I read was Rock, Paper, Scissors. This is by Alice Feeney, and I gotta say I like her writing just up front from the start. So we're following the Wrights. We got Amelia and Adam, and Amelia is feeling like their marriage is falling apart. They need to get away. She wins this getaway from this place that she works. It's just kind of like a volunteer basis kind of thing, and so she wins this getaway to this little place here, Blackwater Chapel, and her husband just kind of going along with it. He's he swears he's not going to do any work-related stuff. They're going to work on their marriage, and stuff starts to happen. You're reading this book in multiple perspectives, plus you're reading a letter from wife to husband. They've been married for 10 years. That's just kind of a recap of their 10 years in the letters is what that is. So I absolutely love this, you guys. I gave this a 5-star rating. The writing is fluid. Something's always happening. And I just didn't find the dull moment in the book. I also featured this in my Thriller Thursday a couple Thursdays ago, and I absolutely loved this. I would recommend this book to anybody who loves thrillers. Absolutely loved this, and it was absolutely fantastic. So if you want a good thriller, pick this one up. I really like her writing. The next book we read here is Sapphire Blue. This is book number 2 in the Precious Stone trilogy, or as the book itself says, the Ruby Red trilogy, so I don't know what one you want to go by. This one did pick up. It did get a little bit better. I did like one a little more. I feel like she's getting a little bit stronger, but I feel like she uses those strengths at the wrong time, if that makes any sense, just by the things that she says or jumping to conclusions or what have you. Her cousin is a complete nut job. So the characters are created very well. I really like the characters in this. You are figuring a little more out. You're getting more questions answered, so that was good. This one went to a 3.5 star, because, yeah, that's right, because Ruby Red did 3 stars. So this went up another half star. It's just not something that I would think about going back and reading again. Okay, and then I finished it up with Emerald Green. I said I'm going to get this trilogy done so I can mark it off for the year. This one was much, much better. I loved the way the story wrapped up. I loved all my questions being answered, because I had one question just bother me, and I wanted it answered, and finally it was answered. So she did really good on wrapping this up. I found that I really enjoyed this one the most. I gave this one 4 stars. Okay, the next one I read was A Touch of Darkness. This is by Scarlett Sinclair. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, kind of. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this one. Persephone, she's got a mom who's just very overbearing, and Persephone ends up making this deal with Hades, which she didn't even know she was making a deal, and then she has to pay that off. It was kind of a bet. She made kind of a bet, and she's got to learn, she has to pay that off. She's got to go plant a garden for Hades, and she just does not have the power to make things grow. When she touches stuff, it dies. That's pretty much the story. I absolutely love this. I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read, which I featured in last week's this last Thriller Thursday, and that is Those Who Wish Me Dead. This is by Michael Carita. This was a recommendation from a viewer, and I absolutely loved this thriller. In this story, you've got this man and woman who have a camp, and it's a survivor's camp, and boys who have been in trouble, or, you know, they are troubled or whatever, they go here to this camp, and they go up to the woods, and they learn how to survive. Well, one of the boys, Jace, goes there, and he's in a witness protection program, and that's why he has to go there, because he witnessed something that was horrific. These two don't know which one he is. They don't, because he's got a name change and everything, and he's hiding from the Blackwell brothers, who are really not nice people. That's all I'm going to tell you. It was fantastic, you guys. I absolutely loved this story. I gave it 5 stars. It was so fluid, and something was happening every moment, and that to me is how thrillers should be. I want it to grab me and just pull me along. That's what I want in a good thriller, and this one was fantastic. The next one I read was Misery by Stephen King. I talked a little bit about this in my TBR, Tech on my TBR shelf. I never read the story. I watched the movie, never read the book. In this story, you have Paul, who's got this series that he writes, a Misery series that he writes. He gets into an accident, and Annie Wilkes pretty much saves his life, but she keeps him in her house because he killed off her favorite character. He needs to write her back to life, and that's what she wants. He gets very mistreated. She's just on that edge of a psychotic break, you know, and he never knows what's going to happen next. He goes through so much, and I don't know how he gets through that. It's a miracle, because the things that she does is just horrific. You guys, this writing is so fluid in this book. Always something going on. And you know, you always say you can get the visuals when you watch a movie. You get the visuals reading this book. Like, the imagery is fantastic in this story. Absolutely loved it. You don't hear a whole lot about Misery. It's not one of those books that a lot of people talk about. They're more talking about The Shining or The Stand, you know, books like that. This one really is fantastic. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars for me. Okay, the next book that I read was Speak Softly, She Can Hear. This is by Pam Lewis. I'm not sure where I picked this book up. I think I picked it up at like a Goodwill or a thrift store or something. This was super annoying, like I said in my Attack on my TBR shelf, because it's just plastic. So that stayed off the book the whole time I read it. This had also a very low rating. I think it was like a 3.06 or 09, something like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read it anyway. And I ended up really enjoying the story, you guys. I ended up giving this 4 stars. In this book, we were following Carol, who is our main character, and Naomi. And you know how girls are like, they go to this elite school in Manhattan, and they're saying, oh, we're going to lose our virginity before we graduate. And, you know, just back in those days, because it's 1965, you know, up until even probably now, teenagers were just like that. Hey, let's lose our virginity before we graduate, or before we go to college, or whatever. Well, that was their quest. Enter Eddie, who is just a weird guy to me. He's just a weirdo. And Carol is with him first. She's 16 years old. She is going to graduate when she's 17. And she just, you know, she's not, doesn't really know a whole lot, you know. She's only 16. She hasn't really lived her life. But she gets with Eddie. They do their thing. And then something horrific happens that night. And she doesn't know how to deal with that. And then you've got Eddie, who's threatening her all the time over it. Carol is just always blamed for everything. Everything that ever happens. Carol, it's your fault. Your fault. And I feel like this was more of a coming-of-age story than it was a thriller. But it ended up, I really ended up enjoying this. There was a lot going on. It just kept moving. The twist is fantastic. Absolutely love this book, you guys. So, you know what? If you go by Goodreads and the ratings, don't always go by that. Read books, form your own opinion. This one was fantastic. So, the next one I read was The Air He Breathes. This is also by Brittany C. Cherry. This was another pretty emotional book. However, not as emotional as Eleanor and Gray was. I gave this one 4 stars. But you've got Elizabeth, and she moves into this neighborhood with her daughter, and she already had a run-in with this man, and his name is Tristan, and they already had a run-in where she was just like, ooh, because he's just known as that grouchy guy. He just is one of those guys that doesn't care about anybody else but himself. And he kind of wants to keep to himself, but she doesn't allow that to happen. She keeps going over and talking to him. She keeps bumping into him and that kind of stuff. And slowly he starts coming out of his shell, and she starts to learn a little bit behind this facade that he has up. Again, we're dealing with grief and loss. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, you won't like this story either. But it was still fantastic. It still was very emotional. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed that one. The next book that I read is book number 3 into the Robert Hunter Thriller series. This is by Chris Carter. I absolutely am loving this series, you guys. Absolutely love this story. You learn a lot about Robert from book 1 to book 3. And in each of the books, they're different cases. So you could actually read whatever one you want out of the series. If you're not going to plan to read any more of the series, if you just want to pick one up and read it, that would be fine. But if you want to learn about your detective, then you need to read them in order. And you're learning a little bit more about Robert in this book. In this one, we've got a serial killer who is sewing up the mouths of his victims, and I don't want to say anything else because I feel like that's just one of the things. Okay, their mouths are stitched up, and most of the time, I'm not gonna tell you that either. Anyway, Robert's on the case, so they got to figure out who each of these people are that get killed, why, when, and who is doing it. So good, you guys. It just had me on the edge of my seat. Robert Hunter does write a little bit darker when it comes to thrillers, but I think you'd really probably enjoy it if you like a good mystery thriller kind of thing. So yeah, this one I gave 5 stars. And the last book that I read for this month was The Key to Fear. This is by Kristen Cast. This is just another kind of delirium story. You don't really get a whole lot of the nitty-gritty in this one. You do get a few key points. They make it that way so that you'll pick up the second book. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up the second book. I did give this 3.5 stars. Maybe I'll just get it on my Kindle if I feel the need to get back to it. But delirium is love is a disease. It's the actual disease, and they can get that little procedure done where they don't love anymore. In this one, you're allowed to love people, you just can't touch. So these people can't touch, and they're taught that the key is who's going to protect them. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. 3.5 stars for this. I don't know yet if I'm going to continue on with this or not. We'll see. I'll let you guys know if I do. So that is 14 books that I read for this month. I think I did really good. Let me know if you've read any of these books, guys, down in the comments below. And that's it. That's it for this video. Thanks, guys, for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.